So this is coffee for serious coffee drinkers. Dan is making this in front of me every morning, and he's slowly trying, I think, to convert me to getting an AeroPress.
Life's too short for instant coffee.
There you go.
That's my motto.
There's a quote from Dan. Life is too short for instant coffee. I like it. Hey everyone, Jason here from Off the Beaten Path, and we're picking up next morning at Wheeler's Creek Hut, and what a cracking spot to camp it was. A little bit of a tour here of the campground. There's heaps of campsites, nice and grassy, right on the bank of the river. You could have some really large groups camping here. Look, they've even, with the refurb here, they've got a bucket there to get some water and actually put your campfires out correctly. So everybody should be doing that. Hopefully that bucket is still there when one of you guys get to go to Wheeler's Creek Campground. The hut is looking fantastic, and there is a long drop toilet there as well, so it's really well equipped and a pretty easy campground to get to as well if you're coming in off the Corryong-Benambra Road. So yeah, these are some of the campsites a little bit further down, all really accessible, nice and level, grassed campsites, just a cracking spot to camp, really is. There's only a couple of these campsite does actually have river access. That actually have the river access. You can see this is one of those, and you can see just how close it is actually to the river. Great spot to camp, particularly if you're one of those people that likes to throw a rod in and see if you can catch some fish. Okay, so this is this morning's challenge. Did notice yesterday, I thought I had a slow leak, so hopefully I can just reinflate that and it'll be good to get home. I think it's just a bead leak, but yeah, let's get the compressor onto it. Pack up time.
Just pulled up. Jason's there behind me and he's just mucking around. He turned his engine off, turned it back on, the engine light's cleared, he's just doing some checks. Here he comes now. What's the verdict?
Let's do it.
All right. So we're doing it. There it is. Just behind me there's the entry to the track, Zulu Creek Track.
So yeah, this morning when I started the car, the engine lights were back on and I wasn't able to get proper four-wheel drive or low range, but as has happened on this trip, turning the car on and off being an intermittent problem, able to get it cleared. So hey, why let potential vehicle problems ruin a good trip, right? Like, what could go wrong? So here we are starting Zulu Creek Track. So literally you drive down the creek to get to the entrance here. You can see the road just up there, and it's straight into it. Really keen to try this track out. Had heard a little info on it from Troopy Matt, who had driven this some years ago, but had also heard that it's been graded since then and it's not nearly as difficult as what it had been in the past. So in the past, there were sections that were quite loose and shaly and some big rock steps, and there's certainly none of that now. So nice steady climb to start off with, your typical switchbacks as you work your way up, and they really are a pretty steady steep climb here. The camera never does it justice. I know we say that a lot, but it really doesn't. That being said, traction was really good in this section. It wasn't difficult to drive. It's just working the cars pretty hard because it is nice and steep. So just pulled up there to make sure Dan's coming along okay behind me. And as you can see there, the track just keeps going up. This section's probably a little looser than some of the others in terms of having a little bit of loose rock on the surface, but still not difficult. And apart from the car working pretty hard, wasn't difficult to drive. And every time you sort of come around a corner and you think you must be at the top, the track opens up and you're still going up. Now, as I said, keep in mind up to this point, Dan's had no issues with the Prado, and I've had this weird intermittent issue with the Pajero that subsequently after this trip I got looked at and got sorted out, and it was some switches that had gone faulty or been damaged on the transfer case. Possibly they were already damaged, possibly it happened during install, possibly because of the way I drive the car and where I drive it. Not sure how that came to be, but that was the issue I'd been experiencing on this trip, so that was relatively easy to rectify. Alright, just finished the first big climb, Zulu Creek Track. That was intense. The steep, loose, shaly. We had rain last night, day before. It was a lot of fun. It really was. Low range, second gear all the way. Rear diff lock in for a lot of it. It was very good fun. Dan's coming up now in his Prado, yeah, I hope he has no issues there. I'm sure he'll be fine. The Grey Dingo is very capable. So yeah, look, it was a lot of fun driving this track. It really was. Just, you know, there's not that many tracks that are such long, steep climbs that just keep going and going. And obviously there were sections there that were a bit looser than what they looked on camera, that's for sure. And driving a bit of a ridge section here before climbing again. This particular section doesn't look like it gets all that much traffic. A lot of regrowth starting to close the track in. But being one of those tracks that it's not driven a lot, however long ago it was graded, I think that was a little while ago, the track's still in really good condition, despite it probably having been a while ago that it was graded. Some great views along this track as well. Even today with the mist and fog sort of closing in, we were still able to enjoy some of that. And this particular section we're sort of traversing before, around one hill before getting onto another climb for the next one. So every time I found on this track, every time you felt like you're at the top, you'd work your way around that hill, and then you'd find another one in front of you that was going to take you up that little bit further. Obviously the bushfires came through here back in 2019. Plenty of evidence that it's still recovering area, and a lot of dense undergrowth and regrowth down low. And as you can see, just working our way up the whole time. You're getting a little bit of a sense of the view that sections of this track have to offer. And as I said, every time you feel like you're at the top, it just keeps going up. So another long climb here. Now at this point, I should mention, Dan's Proto had quite a fair few Ks on it. I think over 300,000 Ks. Might have been close even to 400,000, I'm not sure. It did have a pre-existing sort of gearbox issue as well, that the gears weren't changing fantastically, which I didn't actually know about prior to this trip. And the reason I'm mentioning that will become apparent very soon. Because driving this track, neither of us were expecting any issues. Much as it's very long, it's very steep, it's working the engines pretty hard, and probably the drivetrain as well. It's not what you would call a difficult track. It's definitely steep, but not overly difficult or technical in any real way. So as you saw there, that was a really long, steady climb, and there's several of those throughout this track. And the higher we're getting, the less visibility we're enjoying. And as you can see there, right about now, Dan is on the radio to me, and he's telling me that his engine lights come on. He's also telling me that there was a loud noise in his engine bay, and that the car has gone into limp mode, and he's got maybe 5% of his power. That is all. So at this point, we're sort of debating what to do. We're about 2/3, 3/4 of the way up, and without his car running well, going back down didn't seem like a great option. We still would have had to get out, and my feeling was we were very close to actually getting out at the top here, and my feeling was that the steeper sections were all behind us, and that going forward from here we really didn't have a lot of work left to do. We're getting pretty close to Mt Sassafrass, and then from there it's a pretty easy run down to Wild Boar. So as you can see there, the Grey Dingo is just limping along, and he's got very little power, and he can't drive at any great speed. So we decided that I would turn around. Initially we'd drive along on this fairly flat section and get him sort of as far as we could under his own steam, and then if necessary hook up, and I would have a crack at towing him up. So yeah, this section here that's pretty flat, he was okay to drive on. He couldn't drive at any great speed, but he could drive under his own power. So here we are, 3/4 of the way up the Zulu Creek Track, and we thought if anyone was going to have issues, it was going to be me. Dan's grey dingo made a noise and has gone into limp mode. So he's got about 5 kilometers an hour of pace. That is it. So we're hooking up the snatch strap and putting a bridle on to his anchor points there, and we're just going to try and tow him out of here. We'll get out to the main road and we'll make a plan from there. So, there you go. Should be good as gold. Alrighty, I'll take it real steady.
Yep.
Can't believe if any of us was going to have issues, I thought it was going to be me. Alright, here goes.
So we thought it was going to be Jason with all the engine problems, but grey dingo lost power, and then I heard and the engine cut out, engine light on, and I'm in limp mode. So not the day I was planning. If I turn it off, I don't know whether it's going to turn back on again. So he's going to get us down to safety, down to a main road ish, and then yeah, we'll work out the plan. But could be a long day getting this thing home somehow. So here we go.
So yeah, hooked down on and was towing him up this section. Padge was doing a great job pulling him along. He really didn't have very much power. I could certainly feel him as a weight on the back of the car. And look, through this section here that's pretty flat, we weren't having too much of an issue, and even up some of these initial hills we did pretty well. I did pick up the pace a little bit to get a little bit of momentum coming into these hills, and I was towing with the rear diff lock on to maximise traction as well. And as you can see, up this section of the hill, we're towing him fine. Track's in really good condition, which is important because we're getting good traction. And while we've got traction, the Padge is doing the job and pulling him up. And at this point, we're pretty quietly optimistic that, hey, I'm going to be able to get him out of here, out to Benambra Corrion Road, where maybe he can drive in limp mode back to Albury with me or something, or, you know, we're going to be able to get his car home pretty readily. At this point, it's not that it looks like it with the way the fog's closing in, but it's like 10:30 in the morning, so we've got a lot of daylight in front of us still. And yeah, as you can see, the track surface is getting a little looser, and we're coming up on a bit more of a steeper climb with less traction, and you can hear the Padge is really starting to work pretty hard. Speed is grinding to a halt rapidly. Just could not get traction. The silver anchor on the back has stopped us. So at this point, we really didn't have any other option. I was really hoping this was probably just the last hill. We were literally very, very close to the top of Zulu Creek Track, which then joins up with the Wild Boar Track. So you can see there from the tyre marks, all four wheels have been spinning, left a little bit of a mark on the track. So yeah, I've reversed down, we've unhooked, I've driven up, turned around, and running the winch out with a couple of extension straps on the end of the winch to winch down up. Now, you've probably all heard that expression, more haste, less speed. What I wasn't doing...
This is not fun. Jace is winching me up the hill. We couldn't drive this one, so... nudging it with the tow rope because couldn't get traction to drag me up. Snatch straps aren't the ideal for this, but we've got a snatch strap on my end, which probably isn't helping, and then 2 winch extension straps, and then the length of his winch. So it's got to be at least 50 meters.
So what I wasn't doing, and I should have been, is the old 30-second on, 30-second off rule with the winch. I probably had a couple of little stops, but not long enough, as you're about to see. So you can see the first snatch straps come in there to the winch, and so that's the end of probably a 25-meter winch pull, pulling what's almost a dead weight up this hill. So car's had a little bit of a rest, and then I've reversed it back up the hill while running the winch out. And what I probably haven't given enough thought to is that running the winch out is still using power, and I really should have given a lot more time and a lot more rest for the vehicle and the 12-volt system to recharge the crank battery. And look, while talking to Dan, steering the car, running the winch, you can just see Dan's headlights there poking up over that first bit of that hill. What I wasn't doing is watching the battery volt gauge. Is anyone watching that? No. No one was watching the voltage gauge for the battery. And as you can see, car's just stopped. I was able to start it again. Hey guys, so it's at about this point in the video, I'm editing it back in the office, obviously, a couple of months later in reality. I've realised I don't have any footage to sort of fill this story in. So as you just saw, the pad stalled. The reason for that was, guess what, when you're winching out, you're still drawing power. And I really should have been giving the car more of a rest in between winching, you know, the old 30-second on, 30-second off rule. I wasn't doing that. I should have been doing that. I have a voltage gauge installed to prevent exactly this situation happening. Wasn't looking at it. So, you know, mistakes were made. That's, as you say, shit happens. And it's at this point I've realised we now have 2 busted vehicles, and we're stuck on the side of a hill in the Vic High Country, a long way from just about anywhere. And how do we get out of here? So at least with my vehicle, we knew what the problem was. I've drained the battery down too far, and it was a case of how do we get power back into the battery. Now I have jumper leads and I have a lithium battery charger, both of which were not in my vehicle for this trip. Dan fortunately has both of those things. He actually had them in his car, which is a much more useful place. So what you'll see where we pick up on the footage from here, my GoPro, vehicle mounted GoPro, ran out of battery, hadn't changed the battery or charged it or anything. We were just trying to problem solve. So We've got a bit of a mishmash of footage coming on that'll sort of tell you the story, but basically rolled my car down to where Dan's car was and trying to get my car going again, thinking we were going to need my car to get his car out of here. So that's where we pick up. So the comedy of errors continues. So Dan's limp mode is now solved by a restart, but seems I completely drained my battery trying to winch him up, and consequently we're trying to jump a lead and get some juice back into my battery and get the Pajero going, but we're not having a lot of luck with that so far. So we'll just have to see if we can do that. If we can get the Pajero going, we should be able to both drive out of here. That's the track just behind us there. Hard to see too much in the mist and fog. So anyway, that's the plan. We'll see how we go. So we've tried several times to get the Paj going. I don't know whether it's these jumper leads, which at least Dan had some with him because I didn't bring mine. I don't know whether it's them not putting enough juice in, or whether it's just the Prado's not putting enough juice in, but anyway, we're leaving it run for a while. Dan's been a champion. He's gone up the hill gathering up the recovery straps. Yeah, and we got Troopy Matt on the way with his newly twin-locked Troopy that I think he's pretty convinced is going to pull us both out of here if that has to happen. Although it looks like Dan's Prado is going okay now. The engine light's gone, so if that could have happened before I flattened my battery winching, that would have been good, but it's not how these things go. Fog's definitely closing in. Anyway, it's a Monday, so not likely to see much in the way of traffic on these tracks. So anyway, we'll try it again soon. Okay, we're still doing this. Still, at this rate, Matt is going to be here before we get here. So we had it charging for like half an hour, and Pajero started but then stopped again. So it feels like it's one of two things. It's either just still not getting enough juice in the battery, or the other thing that I've come to think about is it's not steep here, but we are still on a little bit of a slope. I don't know where the fuel outlet is on the Pajero fuel tanks. Maybe because we're on this slope still, it's not actually getting enough fuel into the engine, because it's one of those two sort of things. So it does, well, not that you can see it anymore, but down the bottom there, it's definitely flatter, we think. Definitely, we think, yeah, for sure. We're going to try that anyway. While we're waiting for Matt, we might as well do something. So we're going to try and get the Pajero down on flatter ground, then see if it'll start and run reliably. Yeah, you know, solve these things one problem at a time. Anyway, it's all part of the adventure. Here we are, four-wheel driving. Look at Dan pulling the car. We've got no motor, but we've got a Dan. Who needs a working winch? Is it more level further along, is it? So yeah, right here we're looking for a level spot because I'd come to the thought process that... Oh yeah, bottom of this hollow I should be able to get level. The car was having trouble getting fuel to the engine because it was on an angle, and it didn't want to start for that reason. I reckon that's the money. And look at that. So there we have it. We're level. It just started under its own steam, but it's not keeping on running.
Positive, briefly. Yeah, like it started under its own steam. The battery's showing 12.2 volts now. I'm just, yeah, wondering if it's if this fuel situation could be the thing. You know, with the angle, we're definitely a lot leveler here, so we'll hook it up, try again. This is good, this is very good. Matt's almost here, and we might have finally solved our problem. So I've got the accelerator going, and I'm holding it in just over 2,000 RPM, and we're still jumper leaded to Dan's Prado, but we've started, and it's raining. It could be a good day. So my vote is, if we get out of here, Dan should come with me to the Tallangatta bakery, and we should get some pies. It's a pie day, definitely. So this is really promising. Voltmeter is 14.2 volts. We got power. It's running. It's this is very, very good. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get Dan to stay out there in the rain and get wet, and see if we can winch the winch cable in. All right, so we've got the winch rolled in. Dan's unhooked the jumper leads. Looking promising. I'm not actually game to take my foot off this accelerator. I'm keeping it at the moment between 1,500 and 2,000 RPM. The voltmeter is still showing 14 plus volts. The exit here is going to be a bit wetter and slipperier than it was. When you're able, mate, if you can shut my bonnet for me, please. So, yep, I'll get Dan to shut the bonnet, and then we'll try and get out of here. So, look, this has been a mission. It's now 1:40. I think we started this about 10:30. So this has been a 3-hour mission between when Dan first had trouble and I hooked him up and was towing him, and then trying to winch him, and then my car stopping running. So it's been about a 3-hour mission here on the side of Mt Sassafrass on the Zulu Creek Track that just keeps giving. And now the last bit's going to be even more fun.
So yeah, both cars now running. Winched in. Troopy Matt's on the way. He's actually almost here. But at this point, it looks like we're both going to be okay to drive out of here. It's always nice to know you've got some help on the way, though, just in case. And look, it's about a 2-hour drive from Albury out to where we were. So it was awesome that Troopy Matt was happy to drop everything and come out and give us a hand.
Are you good to get mobile, mate?
And yeah, that's Troopy Matt on the radio there, so you can tell he's not too far away. This track pretty much parallels the Corrion Benambra Road, so he's almost parallel to us, heading up to Wild Boar, which will then link up with us. So yeah, weather's closed in from earlier in the day, that's for sure. And here we are, sort of powering out of here.
Hey Matt, you got a copy?
Yep, I'm about 20 minutes behind you. Yeah, copy, Jason.
Okay mate, we're both mobile and we've just turned off the top of Zulu Creek Track onto Wild Boar. Both mobile, heading to you.
So yeah, not knowing exactly where Matt is, wanted to make it clear that we're coming towards him on the track that he's coming towards us on. As you just saw there, we were so close to the top of Zulu Creek Track, and while it still undulates through the Wild Boar Track here past Mt Sassafrass, Trig Point and everything, it's not as steep as Zulu Creek. And had we been able to get Dan up here without me flattening my battery in doing so, I think towing him through here would have been a lot easier. But as it's happened, we're both doing this under our own steam.
You've got water holes up on top of Sassafrass Ridge here. Can't see much, as you can tell.
And the weather has well and truly closed in.
Just about at the end of the wild boar track, and not too far to get down onto the Benambra-Corryong Road. So all part of the adventure. Bit of a learning experience. Don't try and jump lead a car with a flat battery on any kind of slope. A lot of you guys probably know that already. I definitely know it now. So, you know, life sometimes teaches you these things. Anyway, it's raining, it's foggy, but we're getting out of here. It's been a fun couple of days with Dan, really enjoyed it. We've seen some cool stuff, and a little bit of adventure to close it off. No idea what's going on with his Prado. It's sorted itself out in the end. So in starting and restarting, the limp mode cleared and the engine light cleared. So, you know, he's fine, but he's probably going to head straight home as well. He was going to do another day, but I think he's decided to quit while he's ahead. This is fun, isn't it? We can't quite tell just how steep these hills are. There we go, we're going down. Yep. It's extra interesting driving these one-handed. One hand on the wheel, one hand on the GoPro. Yeah, looks like some people have dug some wombat holes here. We're going down, so no problem. Nice and steady. Certainly won't be doing this when I'm driving the 76, will I? Because I'll need one hand to shift gears. So there's that.
So just for clarity, clearly I had already bought the 76 at the time of this trip.
Alrighty. Getting real close to the end. There's an intersection just down the bottom here. We just keep veering right. As long as I don't lose down in this fog, we'll be good as gold.
And while I might have one more video featuring the Padge, this really is the last trip in the Padge. Yeah, look.
So we're just about at the end of the wild boar track here, and Matt's coming the other way in his Troopy. Pleased to get the old beast in low range, I think he is. Fortunately for us, I guess in the end we didn't need his help, but certainly appreciate his willingness to come out and help us out if we needed it. So we'll be catching up to him very, very shortly. I expect he's on this same track heading towards us. Visibility is not great at all with this fog and mist and rain and what have you that's closed in, but we've all got our headlights on and we know there's traffic coming the opposite direction. So I can see Benambra-Corryong Road on the HEMA. That's that big grey line over there. So we're there he is. There you are, good sir. Here he is, Troopy Matt to the rescue!
Nearly frightened the back there.
Yeah, a slow leak.
Oh, well, that's one area there.
Yeah. Shall we turn around and head out to the road?
Yeah, I can turn here.
Yep. Thanks for coming. At least the Troopy got a run.
Yes, definitely.
So,
The winch cable was finally mounted down too.
there you go.
Yeah.
You needed a
Got
reason.
off the phone the first time, I went, oh, quick, set the cable.
You needed a reason to do that job, so all right.
Hey there, Matt.
Hey Dan, how you going, mate?
Very well, thanks.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks so much.
That's all right. That's what we
yes.
do in this community, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good to have mates. Yeah, we was just saying like, you know, what goes around will come around one day for
does.
us. So
And it's like it's not unusual that this breaks down.
Hey, it didn't break down. I just used all the power in my battery trying to pull him up a hill.
Yeah.
So That wasn't a breakdown, that was user error.
They do lose steep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a fun drive though.
It would be, yeah.
Like, it's not as loose as I think it was when you described doing it in your 80,
Yeah.
but it was still fun.
Yeah. Rock step ups and everything?
No rock steps really.
No, pretty tame, just loose stuff and very steep.
Yeah, but it was, you know, it was a good drive, and we're just lucky. Like when Dan's Prado, the grey dingo, dropped into, you know, it was lucky it wasn't on mid part of one of the really steep climbs. It was after that.
What went wrong with yours?
We don't know.
Yeah. Lost power, and then about 3 seconds later, a loud shh, and then engine light on. So I wasn't game to turn it on and off in case it didn't start again. And then I ended up accidentally turning it off at one point when I was moving, and then I was like, oh, please start, and I turned it on, it turned over and the engine light had gone. And at that point we'd been winching, his battery stuffed, and so it was all a bit of a mute exercise. But
So we should have just pulled him with the tow straps up to the flat and then said, hey, turn your car off, turn it on, see what happens, but we didn't do that. So
Shoulda, woulda.
yeah, that's it. Nothing like 2020 hindsight.
Good content to both the channels.
Yeah, I reckon.
Driving the very last stint.
So yeah, nice short run from there back down to Benambra Corryong Road. This has been a fantastic trip with Dan. 3 days, we've covered some amazing parts of the high country. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and just pleased that we're both getting out of here. So you'll see in a minute, we get down to Benambra Corryong Road and then both head off in our separate directions. As I said, this is really the last four-wheel drive trip for the Padge. Might be one other video with the Padge, but it's not a four-wheel drive trip. So this was a fitting swan song for the Padge that I've had for 4.5 years. And
we got mobile a lot more quickly, but as I said back then, you live and learn.
Yeah, I am talking to the camera while driving here, but I don't think it's really going to come through, so I'll talk over the top of myself.
Approach.
So yeah, as you just probably heard there, we're on the final approach. Now, if you want to see what happens with Dan and the Grey Dingo, go over to Dan's channel, Out There With Dan, and have a look at his video that he posted a couple of months ago now, if you haven't seen that already, where you find out, does he actually get home in the Grey Dingo?
And there is Benambra Corryong Road.
So as I said, Dan's channel is Out There With Dan, and yeah, to see what happens on his trip home from Benambra Corryong Road all the way back to the eastern side of Melbourne, check out his channel.
Put some air in that back tyre. Yeah, until I get a bit more confident in the 76 with no traction control and no lockers, I wouldn't want to tackle anything like Zulu, but gee, it was a fun drive.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having a crack.
It was a ride.
Yeah. Well, it was back in the day, as I was telling you.
Yeah, well, that's what I said to Dan. I said, look, it was pretty wild last time Matt drove it in his 80 series, but apparently it's not that wild anymore, so we'll be fine.
Never listen to Jason when he says that.
So it was like, hey, we were fine until, you know, the ever reliable Toyota badge had an issue.
Still need to wonder what caused that issue.
Well, the fact that it made like an unhappy noise, it didn't just throw an engine light. All right, mate, well, this is where we part ways. You're heading home, I'm heading home. We got out. Thanks for coming. And thanks for bringing all the food, and thanks for cooking. That stew was, I reckon, one of the best things I've eaten on a trip anywhere, and we got to have some fun. I got to show you some cool parts of the high country. We got to do it again.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Chase. I'm glad we made it out, to be honest. So, and he's still willing to come on another trip with me, so that's good too. All right, thanks, mate.
Thanks. Good one.
So yeah, look, since this have been on another trip with Dan, which was also great fun, and you'll see that in some upcoming videos. So thanks everybody for watching. Like this video if you've liked it, and subscribe to the channel. That really helps us keep bringing this content to you. Thanks everyone.